Hello.
Hey.
We are back. This is episode, 120?
20-something.
2?
I don't know.
122, I think. I don't know.
It's something. But we are starting a cult that's growing up Jake, and Mitch is here.
That is true. We are here for the first... Today's a day of first. Jake actually pressed the start button today.
It was invigorating.
The first time that has happened in the history of our show.
You usually spring it on me.
I know, I usually do. I relinquished that power just because of the angle I'm sitting at. And that's about it. But another first, we have an in-studio audience today. How do you guys feel about that? Woo!
Hell yeah. All right.
Very, 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 very wonderful. We have some in-house people checking out what we do today, and I love it very much. So I hope everybody out there is ready because it's going to get real gross real fast. I don't really know how else to say that. We're going to talk about
with John Wayne Gacy.
The murder, the rape, and the molestation, and the disembodiment of plenty of people. But I would like to start this with a joke. Okay, this joke was told to me the other day by a person that is in-house today, my aunt. It was the best joke I've ever heard in my life regarding one of these things, okay? All right, you ready? Bitch, I don't think I told you this one yet. What does it feel like in John Wayne Gacy's house? What does it feel like?
He's supposed to.
Mitch is shrugging.
Supposed to answer.
He thinks that you guys can see him, but I know you can't. Mitch doesn't know the answer. So here's the question one more time. What does it feel like in John Wayne Gacy's house? Well, it feels like 33 to 36 below.
There you go.
Zing!
Isn't that delightful?
How about that one? That's how we're going to start the episode. I gave it a variation because we don't have a confirmed body count, but it's somewhere in that area.
Something.
So Jake, why don't we just jump right in? There's no sugarcoating this one, so let's just do it.
No, it's probably the worst of the three.
Yeah.
So, we left off last week with John Wayne Gacy beginning to become the absolute monster history will forever remember him as, with his first instances of murder.
Ooh.
Right, we starting off with Gacy's first murder when he was 30 years old at that point with Jack McCoy. The first murder.
Isn't that crazy? Because you think, at least in a lot of these other stories, somebody go back and do me a favor. Count in this 3-part series how many times I've said in other true crime stories, because I feel like it's been an insane amount.
We keep making references. It's too much.
But he's, in relation to other stories, he's so old. I mean, everybody else, they got such a head start in this situation. He really didn't. He just kind of...
He just fell into it one day, just like all of his other jobs.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
He is a clown, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And he didn't fall into that until his late 20s. What the hell? But anyway, so his this episode will focus on, for time's sake, I guess, the method of murder more than the individuals.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
There's too many. There's far too many. But I think we should probably read their names, just out of respect.
Oh, yeah.
At the end, maybe.
I agree.
Yeah.
This is an in memoriam episode. Not particularly for any reason other than just there's a lot of dead people.
Yeah, and this is already 3 parts. We're not going to make any more parts.
You can fill a significant portion of a cemetery with just his victims. A very significant portion.
About the size of his house. Yeah, the circumference there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so first, let's talk about this guy's second marriage, right? Because we talked about it a little bit last time.
How did this guy get married again?
He got married again. But so we touched on this a little bit in last episode, but Gacy's first murder occurred 4 years before him and his second marriage's divorce. Carol and her daughters. They divorced in 1976, but the first murder happened in 1972, I believe. So Gacy would commit his first 3 murders in this 4-year period, but he was not slowing down on fucking his young male employees during this time.
That was his favorite.
That was his main
hobby.
thing, yeah.
He really, he had a plethora of interests, right? But definitely that was, if it wasn't number 1, it was number 2, Yeah. It was the fries to his burger, for sure.
No, that makes sense. The main rule in the Gacy household was that only Gacy himself is allowed in the garage. No one's allowed in there. All right,
I'm going to call a timeout here, okay?
No. Go ahead.
if you're, I personally am not married, okay? But if you are married, well, yeah, that's true. But if you are married and your spouse and or significant other absolutely refuses you entry into a part of your own home without giving you a valid reason of like, it's different than being like, oh, I just blew up that bathroom. Don't go in there for like a couple hours, you know? But when it's literally like, this part of the house, you're absolutely not allowed.
It's like you're forever banned. That guy is killing legions of people.
You should
like,
at least,
no matter who it is,
at least ask questions. You know, have some suspicion.
No, you should break in.
That's a good
break
idea.
in. Maybe. Oh, you're jumping ahead, Mitch.
Unless, I mean, like, see, I was just talking about this on the Patreon. The Stand Against Evil. You know, he had a room that he couldn't go in, and it was for a valid reason. But if you find yourself in a scenario where you're in a fictional universe, this is okay, but in reality, do not allow that behavior to go unchecked. That's just my opinion.
At very least, just leave, you know?
Yeah, that's a smart bet.
Yeah. Carol, Gacy's wife, she claims that she could see Gacy come home very late at night very often with the headlights off, only to witness him going into the garage, almost always accompanied by a young man.
Right.
You know, okay? So it's all kind of out in the open anyway. It's just I don't know what the inside of the garage looks like.
I'm asking the rhetorical questions that she didn't ask, okay? Not even a spouse. If I literally saw anybody that I knew personally doing that on more than one occasion, I'd like to think that I would at least be like, hey, what's the deal?
It's really the pulling up with your like headlights off late at night that just... Like, we can hear you. And the fact we can't see you just makes it suspicious.
We can still see the car. It's just you don't have lights. You know, it's like it's a vehicle.
You're slamming the door. There's two slams. It's like
you're
with
someone.
someone.
You're not pulling up on a skateboard. You're pulling up in a car.
Yeah. Well, this became such a regular occurrence that curiosity got the best of Carol. And Navi is assaulting the door right now.
He wants in. He wants in.
But all right, so yeah, she eventually came into possession of a key to the garage, and once she entered, she found mattresses on the floor, mirrors on the ceiling, multiple red lights plugged into various outlets, and the sweet and sickening stench. So this stench, unbeknownst to her at the time, was the shallow buried corpse of John Butkovich, who we talked about last episode.
I love that name,
Butkovich.
Butkovich.
I don't even know if that's proper pronunciation, but
Butkovich.
It is the best way I could possibly think
I don't know
of.
what nationality. It sounds like some type of Eastern European nationality.
From Ukraine, yeah.
Yeah. But it seems like the kind of guy that would own like a convenience store back in like the 70s.
Oh, wait, no, this
perhaps.
was this the guy who was the Yugoslavian immigrant's son?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Yugoslavia.
Butkovich.
There you go. So as fucked up as this may seem, it didn't come to Carol as too much of a surprise when she found all this stuff. Gacy told his ex-wife semi-early on that he was bisexual, so it was like, okay. But Gacy became more and more blatant in his preferences as time went on. It got a little gross.
It turned into just... See, there's sexual desire, and then there's just pure craziness, right? There's a fine line there. Nowadays, you know, you have the internet. You can watch any type of video you want, and you can satiate that. But he chose to go the aggressive route and do it all himself.
Yeah, Gacy would regularly masturbate to gay porno mags in their bedroom, just like during the day.
Well, you
when
know,
she was there, just fully nude, just doing that.
That's some psychological thing. That's like...
It seems like a power move on his part, like but in the wrong direction of his moral compass.
She's gone, and it's like his little way of like, yeah, I'm not in my space. Like, I'm going to do that in our space.
No, she was there.
Oh. Well,
it would be in front of her. That's another added layer of disrespect there. But
that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't... Oh, my goodness.
He would also comment to her while they were in public, like on dinner dates and that kind of stuff, about young men in public that he had desires for. He was like, look at that, look at the ass on that one. You know, one of those.
And it's like, it's not funny, but it is.
Carol, check it out.
Look at the dong on this one.
Yeah.
It's so, like, openly disrespectful that I can't believe it.
Navi's broken through. He's in the room.
He broke the floodgates. He's in. He heard me say, what a nice dong, and here he comes.
Oh, he's freaking out.
That's all right.
It's all right. Fine. He's just a young lad.
Mitch has got it. He's on door duty here.
See, this is why that door broke in the first place. Didn't he lock himself in this room and we had to get Georgie to get him out?
Yep.
God damn it.
Georgie had to drive all the way out here just so we could not have to break this door down to get him out.
I'm glad that Navi's a reoccurring character on the podcast now.
He is. He's part of the lore. We'll put a picture of him up so you guys can get a face to the name.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it.
I got a picture of him wearing a ski mask, and it's pretty funny.
Back to Gacy. Holy shit, Navi! Jesus Christ!
I want to just let you know how powerful this.
Why is he so angry? I don't care.
And I want
to do whatever.
We're breaking stride here. I want you to know how just aggressive this dog is, or he can be when he wants to be by people.
His tail can break your ankle. It's nuts.
Could.
He loves people.
He loves people. And there are 5 of us in this room right now. And Navi just he pushed open a locked door.
Dude, when I first got here today, he put 5 new scrapes on my arm. He was drawing blood. It's crazy.
This is good.
He was so excited.
You're doing things for us that are positive because we're talking about awful things. Back to this guy who's masturbating to gay porn next to his wife in their bedroom.
Well, Cat calls young men to her on dinner dates.
Oh, yeah, what do you
also,
like, hey, nice dong there, Paul. Let me see what you're working with.
Yeah. Have you seen one like this, Carol? Have you seen one? But
that is hilariously rude. I can't get over it.
No, yeah, and she also started finding little pairs of underwear made of silk, often with cum on them. Just around the house, just around the house.
Oh, gross. I'm getting. Tell me if I'm wrong out there, people. You can email us. You know our email. You can hit us up.
startacult@gmail.com.
I do want to say I'm getting really strong. What was his name? Was it David Parker Ray, the Toy Box Killer?
Yeah.
I'm getting really strong Toy Box Killer vibes from this situation.
I mean, if John Wayne Gacy had whatever chemical he used to make people forget all their experiences, he would definitely do that.
Yeah, the only big difference here is his wife is not involved with it either. So he's a one-man show. Like, he's doing it all himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, so from here, all this stuff was happening. It wasn't good. He was kind of deteriorating in how he treated his wife there. And it was in 1975 on Mother's Day that after having sex, Gacy informed Carol that would be the very last time they would ever have sex.
Can you imagine hearing that news?
On Mother's Day of all days.
I can imagine that, there's people out there that are like very, very sexual people, and that's just a part of life. That's nature. But to be with your wife or your significant other or your husband,
Jesus Christ, Navi,
to have physical relations, to have sex, and then just be like, "This is the last time this is ever going to happen."
Yeah.
Would you even
and to tell them
it?
After, so they wouldn't even have the time to savor it,
Right,
maybe I should take some mental photographs, photography.
Like, it is? Like, are you joking? Is this like a bad joke? But no, he was serious, and it wasn't the last time he had sex. Just with her, it was.
It was the best bad joke because good jokes are true, and he meant it. He very much meant it.
He's like, "This isn't a joke, honey. You can stop laughing. This is not funny."
Yeah. This was still a little under a year before their divorce. So she, stuck with it. But as I think I mentioned in the last episode, the marriage ultimately ended after an extremely heated fight over Carol balancing the checkbook improperly. But obviously,
that was the tipping point. Huh?
Yeah, I guess that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back there.
All right. I mean, hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Yeah. But it was after his divorce that Gacy began ramping up his frequency when it came to the killing, so much so that he would have nights where he would refer to them as his doubles nights. All right?
I went for
doubles nights.
The Denny's Grand Slam tonight, guys. I got a little bit of everything.
He ordered it twice.
I wonder for I'm rewinding here a little bit back to his wife.
That's fine. This timeline, like I said, this entire series, the timeline is just so skewed.
Yeah, I'm rewinding just a minute because this is a comment that just kind of came to my mind. I wonder, this is something that we don't have information on particularly. I don't even think it's out there other than just, opinions that you might find on Reddit or other sites. I have a feeling that Gacy had some type of physical abuse going on with his wife, or maybe even emotional, maybe not physical.
It was definitely emotional. I mean,
to the point
all
where
that stuff I said.
The reason that they weren't divorcing earlier or splitting, she was probably afraid of him. It's like, I'm not saying that she was aware of what he was doing, but part of her had to have some suspicion, you know?
I mean, she saw everything in the garage and everything he'd do on his own.
She would see these men come home, and, you know, in her head, I don't know what she's thinking, but it's like, okay, they're here, they're in the house. And then she obviously never saw them leave because they never left. So you got to start putting two and two together at some point. And just thank God for her, she balanced that checkbook poorly, because that was her ticket out of that house. Yeah.
Well, like I said, while they were married, he only killed 3 people.
Oh, that's diet murder. That's
nothing at all. But no, he ramped up the frequency of killing. He had his doubles nights. As one might have guessed, these were nights wherein Gacy would lure in a boy, murder him, and then he would go out and lure in a second boy and kill him as well.
Man, I barely have the energy to go to 2 stores in one night.
No, it's too much errands.
It's like, we're going to Walmart. Let's stop at Aldi. I'm like, can we just go home? I'm exhausted.
This leads quite nicely into talking about the crawl space, honestly. For those of you who are unaware, a majority of John Wayne Gacy's 33 victims were found buried in his crawl space of his Norwich home.
Ooh.
All right. What was interesting about this is that, in relation to the doubles nights, is that whenever Gacy took the lives of 2 boys in one night, he would always bury them in the same grave. Everywhere that I read that, they were like, "Oh, it's so interesting, it's so weird." I'm like, no, he just didn't want to dig more.
Yeah,
like, why would he do that?
That's common sense.
He was a fat piece of shit. Like, why would he do that?
You're ordering pizza on a Friday, right? You order it, you have it, you got the box. It's a big box. You ordered the family-size pizza. You're not going to sit there and fold it up, put it in the garbage, drag the garbage to the street. If you're getting pizza Saturday, you're just going to wait till you get both boxes and do it at once. Why would you do all that extra work?
No, yeah, it's true.
And when you're dealing with literal corpses, you got to save yourself that heartache. You got to save your energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 2 separate graves. What are we being nice to these things now? I killed him.
He's a clown. He's not an undertaker, okay? He's got things to do.
Yeah. All right, so we also mentioned last week how the handcuff trick worked, right? You explained it pretty well. Basically, Gacy would handcuff himself behind his back and successfully get out of him, and then he would tell the victim, he was like, "Hey, I could show you how to do this trick." Unbeknownst to the victim, Gacy kept the handcuff key hidden in his hand the whole time, and once the victim had the handcuffs on, Gacy would reveal that he had it, saying it helps to have this.
Yeah.
You know, that was basically the handcuff trick.
That's like a straight Freddy Krueger move. If Freddy Krueger, like, gave you the old bait and switch, but...
It kind of is like a clowning move as well.
It's like,
so Pogo, it kind of makes sense with Pogo and Patches.
You think he made balloon animals?
God, I hope so.
Is that like
I hope he had some sort of worth as a clown aside from how he looked.
Is that a specific clown thing, or is that like just a troll? Can every clown do that? Do you have to do that to pass clown school?
I feel like every clown does it, but if you do it, it doesn't automatically make you a clown. And Navi, it's okay. Navi's very impassioned about clowns.
He hates clowns, and he really doesn't like balloons either.
No, yeah. But in any case, where was I? Here is this. This method worked. The handcuff trick. We're back to that. This method worked on a majority of his victims, but there was one instance where the trick proved to go horribly awry for Gacy.
He forgot the key. No, I'm just kidding. He's like, "Oh, damn it, somebody help me out of this thing."
Good Lord. But no, so a young man named David Cram, who...
David Crab?
Cram.
Oh, okay.
Like you cram something.
It's like Mr. Krabs?
Yeah. Jesus, Navi. So David Cram, he began working for Gacy at his construction company. He moved in with Gacy, right? Because, why not? He's a single guy. He doesn't have any money yet. The paycheck hasn't come in yet. He needs somewhere to live. So he moved in with Gacy. Not even
Terrible idea.
Yeah, probably. Because not even 24 hours later, Gacy attempted to play the handcuff trick on him. And this was after getting him drunk,
Okay.
So what Gacy didn't know was that Cram was fresh out of a year in the Army. So he was kind of ready for this.
He's like, I know this trick. I invented this trick, bro.
So Cram ended up overpowering Gacy while in the handcuffs, kicking him in the face and freeing himself from the cuffs.
Damn.
So isn't that great? Just the military coming through.
How would you not appreciate visualizing that? You know what I mean? This guy's murdering and raping people.
He's handcuffed behind his back. He kicks this guy in the face, gets free, and guess what? He doesn't move out of the house.
He's like,
He stayed living with Gacy after this.
Try it again. I dare you. Yeah. I dare you.
Insane. But, so he didn't move out of the house, like I said. And about a month later, Gacy appears at Cram's bedroom door claiming that it was in best interest of Cram if he just gave him what he wanted. He's basically like, you don't know who I am, you don't know what I'm capable of. It's best you just do what I want. Gacy again attempts to rape Cram, and he was fought off again by the young veteran.
Damn, dude, this guy really flipped the script completely.
Yeah, then he moved out finally after the second time.
This is like the most disturbing episode of The Odd Couple ever. It's just like they both are good at what they do, and
it's
he's
a
just
one-time limited series.
I'm gonna rape you. And he's like, no, you're not. You're gonna get me a cup of coffee. And he's like, okay.
He's like, God damn it, you're right.
I'm sorry.
So he moved out after the second time, but Cram never once told anyone about what he'd gone through at John Wayne Gacy's house.
Damn. The only victim that was able to survive.
Yeah, really?
Well, I mean, as far as we know, I'm sure there's others.
Well, the only one that left having been unassaulted.
Yeah, quite
because
literally.
Because a couple of them, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But, so he didn't move out. He tried to rape him again. Then he moved out. However, Cram didn't tell anybody. This may have been due to Cram not wanting anything homosexual related to him, but may have also been due to the fact that Gacy was often implicating the boys that he took as victims in crimes and or like blackmailable situations almost every time. They were always drinking or smoking weed, and they were all underage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And many of the employees that he took into the garage were closeted gay men. Or at very least, they didn't want their experimentation, even if they didn't know, getting out into the public. I mean, not to mention the fact that Gacy was their boss.
Right.
So their livelihood really depended on them doing this shit and taking part in it and being quiet about it.
It's very reflective of like what we talked about with Jeffrey Dahmer when we did that series. It being a homosexual and being gay in that time, it's like it was almost... You wanted to keep that a secret more than anything on the planet.
Yeah.
So if it came down to it where you either had to tell somebody that you were assaulted and raped and almost murdered, chances are they wouldn't say anything because it would come out that you were involved in that situation because you were gay. And that was not going to fly. So
that's probably directly what Cram was trying to avoid. He's like, you know what, I took care of it. It's done.
Yeah,
it's fine. I'm good.
No one needs to know what happened here because that's my reputation on the line. So it is. It's a thing, a product of the times, I should say.
Yeah.
Today it might not be as big of an issue, but back then that was like not okay. Like you really could, especially in that world where you're contract work, you're doing things like that. You could get blackballed and never hired again if it came out that you were gay. So
yeah, I can see that happening.
Why, you know what I mean? Like why? I mean, even if that wouldn't have happened, it was a thought that if that came out, that could be a byproduct of that information. So it was easier in that time for them to just act like it didn't happen.
Yeah, just let it go, and that added another aspect to Gacy getting away with this stuff for so long. Aside from just states not talking to each other about his past crimes, but that's neither here nor there. So. Gacy, what kind of killer was he, Grant?
Like in the category of killers? Yeah. That's a good question. I really don't know.
I think he was a process killer through and through.
I could see that.
Because the bodies were never that special to him. What motivated him to kill was the killing itself. Like the first one, he came in his pants. He didn't even realize. He was like, this is euphoric.
Yeah, that like
as he was killing him,
He got the sexual release.
Yeah, he couldn't get off unless he was killing someone.
Yeah, it wasn't so much about the actual act. It was more about what he could get out of the act.
Yeah. Yeah. What motivated him to kill was the killing itself. The plot line and how it should all go down and how the murder's done. That's what got him off, right? So it only makes sense that Gacy, having such an expansive track record in hindsight, 33 young boys, he would get a little creative with his role in these heinous acts. So
very creative.
Very creative. In his confessions, Gacy revealed that his murders were committed by a character that he referred to as Mad Jack, or Jack Hanley. Apparently, this character was based off of a real-life detective who assisted Gacy in getting his police regalia.
I was going to say, where did that name come from?
It was an actual dude's name, yeah. And, Jack Hanley. He helped him get all the police badges and all that stuff. He often used to lure in his victims.
You mean he didn't just go to Halloween USA and just pick up?
No, it was legit looking stuff. It was pretty crazy. Apparently, the real Jack Hanley was a tough, grizzled man who hated gay men and often took to beating young men, especially weak young men with long hair, for no reason aside from their outward appearance.
Yeah, that quite literally is describing what he would do to these people.
Pretty much, yeah. Due to this character coming out later into Gacy's confessions, many people are skeptical of its legitimacy. However, if it is true, it kind of sheds an interesting light on the psychology of Gacy during this time. Mm-hmm. In a way, the real-life person, Jack Hanley, was based off of... the real-life Jack Hanley, who his character, Jack Hanley, was based off of, shares many traits with Gacy's father.
Indeed.
In one way or another. It could be a testament to how Gacy's internalized feelings about himself being homosexual could be reacted to by him from learned experiences from his father.
Right, and what we talked about in part 1, where Gacy both feared, hated, and respected his father to a very crazy degree. So the idea that this, they share similar traits, and he utilizes that as, I guess, angry fuel to add to the fire.
Yeah.
It's the perfect storm because, his dad's no longer around, so he doesn't have that I don't know what he's looking for. I don't know if it's compassion or hatred or any form of attention he could get from him.
Yeah, it's like love from his father was, in normal people's eyes, hatred from his father, but he's craving it because he's dead. He died on Christmas, remember?
Yep, Christmas death. What a sad day to die.
Yeah.
There's not a good day to go, but Christmas is a real bad one.
Or was it Christmas? Was it Christmas?
I believe it was.
I think it was Christmas. I don't remember.
I'm pretty certain it was.
Go back and listen to the first one. Yeah. Well, Gacy at this point was in the midst of what he called his cruising years. This was a period of time wherein his murdering was in full swing and not slowing down. Gacy would go out, off on the town in Chicago, luring in young men into his car under the guise of being a policeman or just being a John seeking a prostitute, or simply picking up young men looking for a place to stay, a quick fix, or work. Because he had all that stuff. He had drugs, he had businesses.
Penis,
he had
whatever
a penis,
you wanted.
As many people have said. One of the more unique pretenses through which Gacy found a victim was in 1977 with 19-year-old John Cizik. So Cizik was not employed by Gacy, so this was a rare occurrence. He was rather simply a, quote, friend, according to Gacy. And he was lured into Gacy's home under the pretenses that Gacy wanted to purchase his Plymouth Satellite off of him.
What a generic car.
It's a good one.
It's not bad.
They look cool.
Just the idea of, that's the car that I want to buy is the Plymouth Satellite. It makes me think of that song Planet Claire when he's like, she drove up Plymouth Satellite. See, that's the only time I understand that,
No, that does make sense. Gacy wants it. Gacy wants the car. So he says. All right, so Gacy reportedly strangled Cizik in his spare bedroom, instead of buying the car.
So what you're telling me is he really wanted the car.
He really wanted the car. So after he disposed of the body in his crawl space, and he went out and sold the car. So I don't think he really wanted the car.
Oh.
I think he may have just wanted to kill this guy.
He just wanted the vessel, not the car, you know?
No, yeah, he sold it for $300.
What?
No, back then that's a lot of money.
I would literally cry, and I would shit in my pants if I could buy a car for $300. And it actually
I got
worked.
news for you. Get your ass ready.
Get ready, because you're gonna find it. Go on Craigslist right now, and just be careful, because there's a lot of guys like him on there. So
yeah, no, it's very true. So no, I know I said the bodies didn't really matter, but there was one sort of weird ritual Gacy would do with the bodies before he would bury them under his home. Okay, Gacy would commit the heinous act of murder after raping and/or torturing the young male victims. And then he would place the bodies underneath his bed for roughly 24 hours. Every time he would do this.
That, again, in the true... I'm rewinding, count it up again. Here comes the tally. In the other true crime stories that we've done, this is very similar to both Ed Kemper and Jeffrey Dahmer, who in their own way did something similar. They would have their little after-death ritual with the corpse, you know?
But his was just kind of sticking it under the bed. I mean, it's theorized that this could be an initial way of cleaning up. It's in a sense, it's like what just happened didn't really happen. Nothing's ever happened in this room. You can't see anything that's wrong with this room. Everything's fine. It's it's kind of like he's lying to himself.
It's like when you're too lazy to do the laundry, and you just have a pile on the floor, and you just kind of kick it under the bed, or maybe you throw the comforter over it or something. You're just like, see, look, it's gone. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
I'll
no
clean
more
it
mess.
Later. That's what he was doing, but with the bodies of young men.
Yeah, humans. So obviously the bodies were then transported to the crawl space or wherever he chose to bury them, because he did end up using a lot of the real estate under his house.
Oh yeah,
and we'll talk about that in a sec.
Oh yeah, he used just about every.
He ran out of space. He ran out of space. There was no more space to do it.
He was done. He was done dude.
It was crazy. But at the very end of 1977, around December 30th, Gacy committed one of his 2 known captures and releases.
Ooh, what's that?
This is weird, right? Because, he does this to get off, and he can only get off by killing someone.
Right,
so this was just it was just a weird anomaly in his timeline. The releases of these boys was entirely on purpose, right? It wasn't due to being overpowered or outsmarted how it had been in the past. Gacy simply abducted, beat, raped, and released the boys. Many believe this to be due to the same crawl space issue that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But the ever-creative Gacy found a new means of disposing of the victims' bodies, dumping them in the river.
Yeah. See,
that's kind of a surefire way that it's always moving. Get it out of here,
The thing that I find interesting about this tidbit of information is that in most scenarios, people that study these things, or if you're listening to this, you have some sort of interest in true crime. You might go to, well, maybe the murder and all that. It was becoming mundane, and he wanted to spice it up, similar to how, I don't know. Let's say you play baseball, right, and you swing with your right hand, but you're really good when you do that. So you want to switch it up, and you're going to bat lefty today because you just want to, I don't know, see how it goes.
So this is his way of attempting to be ambidextrous in his heinous murder.
No, exactly. It's his way of kind of adding some spice to the pie. But
yeah.
That was you don't really add spice to pie. Well,
it depends on the pie. There's savory pies. You don't know about pies. Come on.
Yeah, that is true. There's all different kinds. But in his instance, it's almost comical that it simply is just like, well, I got nowhere to put it, so let's just let him go. It's like I got no other options. I don't want to stop, but I mean, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah, where do I even put him? Well, he put him in the river, and Gacy would continue on with his murdering and dumping in the remains in the river 5 more times until things started going very wrong for Gacy. In Gacy's eyes. In society at large's eyes, maybe it's good. But
yeah, in society's eyes, it started going wrong about 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. So, he's killed a lot of people up until this point, okay? And it's December 11th of 1978. And this is when he kills someone who the police actually start to follow up with. Okay?
Yeah, that's not good.
This guy's family loved him. So that's something. But so on December 11th of 1978, Gacy visited a pharmacy in Des Plaines to discuss a remodeling job with the owner. While this business meeting took place, 15-year-old Robert Peist overheard Gacy say that his company employed teenage boys with a starting pay of $5 an hour, which was double what Peist was being paid at the time.
Damn. That was certainly a different time because I'm pretty sure that's illegal now.
Not for servers.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess
making
that's
off
true.
Of tips, you know?
They factor in that you're supposed to get tips.
Yeah, that's actually a lot for the server.
Either way. I do say supposed to because it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, this guy was working at a pharmacy. So Gacy loudly told pretty much the entire store that he employs young boys for $5 an hour. And Peist overheard this, which was no accident on Gacy's part. Later that evening, after the two had spoken directly about the possible employment, Peist's mother arrived to pick up Robert. And it was her birthday, so they were going to celebrate a birthday together. It was going to be great. And Peist asked his mother to wait due to some contractor wanting to offer him a job. So Peist promised to return soon, but he never would. Because around 9 o'clock p.m., Gacy took Peist back to his Norwich home, claiming that he needed to sign some tax documents if he was, to be employed there.
Oh, he had to sign some documents, all right.
Oh, yeah. So Gacy then asked him if there was anything... Oh, wait, no. Hang on. He needed to do some tax documents. Once there, Gacy began giving Peist beers. That was kind of his natural thing. He would just give people beers. Which inevitably led to the handcuff trick. Gacy then asked if there was anything he wouldn't do for the right price, to which Peist responded in saying that he was not afraid of working hard. All right.
That's such a sad way of putting it. He's not afraid of working hard. It's like, man, you don't know what.
You don't even know what's about to happen. So yeah, once Peist was thoroughly duped by the handcuff trick, Gacy told him directly, "I'm going to rape you, and there's nothing you can do about it."
Well, that's one way to get the party started, I guess.
So Peist began to cry, and he was pleading, but Gacy placed a rope around the boy's neck and proceeded to strangle him.
Yep.
He was dead by 10 o'clock p.m., just about an hour after we arrived at Gacy's home.
Yeah, that sounds about on par with what I was thinking was going to happen.
Yeah, he's pretty predictable at this point. So the next day, the Peist family was extraordinarily worried. It was not like Robert to stay out this late, let alone on his mother's birthday, right? Because he loved his mom. He was like, "Mom, I'm going to go get a new job for your birthday." But he didn't. He didn't.
It's such a funny but practical gift. It's like, you know what I'm going to do for you, Mom? I'm going to get a job.
Better job, be more independent.
Just think of the stress that will alleviate from your life. I'm going to do that for your birthday. It's kind of a cop-out, like you didn't even get her a card, but it is thoughtful.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's good. It didn't end well, but... so the Peist family, they file a missing persons report. Right?
Yeah.
This led to the owner of the pharmacy where Gacy and Peist had met to link Gacy to the boy the night of his disappearance.
Yep.
Ultimately, this led the Des Plaines police to obtain a search warrant for Gacy's Norwich home. So this search led to the discovery of multiple police badges, a starter pistol, a hypodermic needle, handcuffs, gay and pederasty books, porno films, an 18-inch dildo, bottles of Valium, underwear too small for Gacy, and probably most interestingly to the police, 1975 class ring from Maine West High School with the initials JAS engraved into it.
Yes.
And so they found a bunch of shit.
And this plays a huge role because, obviously, again, like we said, spoiler, he does get caught.
He does.
But one of the biggest things that led to this investigation that would come, one of the main investigators, Lieutenant Joseph Kozenzak.
There's a lot of Polish names in this story.
Kozenzak.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
it's Chicago,
His son attended Maine West High School as well. So it hit home for him a little bit. It's like, this is a classmate of my son.
Yeah, he was the detective who really decided to keep pursuing Gacy.
Yeah, so this was definitely the final straw on the camel's back. It did not bode well after this event.
Yeah, very much so. So these discoveries led to the police confiscating Gacy's Oldsmobile and any PDM vehicles, which was his construction company like we covered. So, before putting him on a 24-hour surveillance So police also began investigating Gacy's past a little more clearly, because, there's a lot of stuff that kind of got lost in the woodwork. Finding out all about the sodomy and battery charges. So police also interviewed Gacy's ex-wife, who shed a little bit more light on Gacy's checkered past.
Yeah, that he was a psychopath.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was happening.
For lack of a better term, that is.
Yeah, there's a lot of words we can use to describe him. So the class ring that was discovered was then traced to John Allen Sizik. All right, we remember that guy, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, he died. He was gonna get the car bought from him, but no, he just died, and then they sold his car. Either way, Gacy never once thought he was going to be caught. He began inviting the policemen who were running surveillance on him to dinner and out to drinks. He was trying to be buddy with them.
Pulling the old Ed Kemper, hide in plain sight.
Yeah. He also knew that they weren't going to arrest him for something small, or what he viewed as small, I guess. So he would purposefully attempt to get away from the policeman tailing him whenever he was out, and sometimes he would do this successfully.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He would just get away and I got you.
Well, they're not going to blow it early. You're not going to arrest him on that. And then it's you're trumping up charges here.
Yeah, but he's just being a dick. One morning, he was out to breakfast and he invited the surveillance officers to join him again. And during this, he was kind of being interviewed a little bit about his business and his clowning and his other escapades. But when he was talking about Pogo and the patches and the clown personas, he famously or infamously said, clowns can get away with murder to the policeman.
Yeah,
that's something he said to them over breakfast.
That is kind of funny. It isn't funny in the ha-ha way. It's just wow, this guy he's either losing it or he's way too comfortable.
I think it was a little bit of both, because that's just insane. As if that wasn't blatant enough, the true discovery of Gacy's hidden horrors became... They came one day when he invited detectives running surveillance on him into his home, okay? So one of the detectives used Gacy's restroom, flushed the toilet, and immediately smelled the stench of dead bodies.
Yep.
I don't know how that happened. I guess during the first search, his air system wasn't circulating, but this time it was, and right after he flushed the toilet, he kind of stood up straight. The air was blowing in, and he just immediately smelled dead bodies. He knows what they smell like. He's a detective. He's a homicide detective. So, Gacy at this point was becoming visibly worn down from, constant surveillance and the attempt. So he attempted a civil suit against the Des Plaines Police Department to get him to leave him alone.
Which
is crazy.
That is, I guess, the proper way to go about that. You can't get him off you unless you do something like that. And, at this point, I think what people don't understand is that in the mind of these psychopaths, they really don't believe that what they're doing is wrong or that they'll get caught. They have that invincibility emotion, And the civil suit is the best way where it's it kind of covers your tracks, where to him it seems like, well, I have nothing to hide, so why wouldn't I just do this and get him to go away?
Yeah, no, it does make sense.
That just means they're going to look a little bit harder because they don't want to lose.
No, it's very true. All right, so him, being in contact with lawyers and everything, this ultimately led to his demise.
Yep,
because
yes, it did.
One night during a meeting with his defense attorney, which the police were not permitted to, attend or hear anything because of attorney-client privilege.
Cue the American Psycho scene.
There you go. So he confessed to every single thing that he'd ever done to this defense attorney. And let it be known that this was this attorney's first case in private practice.
He's like,
John Wayne Gacy just dumps all this on his desk.
I'm going to spread my wings and be a civil defense lawyer. It's all right. Good luck. Have fun. You got this one.
You got Gacy. So, Gacy was extremely drunk for this, apparently. He kind of ramped up, the heavy drinking. I'd said he was kind of getting worn down from the surveillance. He was drinking heavily. He wasn't shaving. He was, visibly just tired and exhausted.
And the lawyer literally gave him a drink. He got a bottle of whiskey out of his own car.
No, he's like, yeah,
to
you
give
you
to
need
his
this.
client.
Yeah. So Gacy was extremely drunk during this. And, he began to... After he, told his lawyer about all this stuff, he rejoined the group of policemen running surveillance on him, blackout drunk, and apparently he fell asleep and then woke up, or pretended to wake up and did like a Frankenstein walking around sort of thing, and then he pretended to go back to sleep. But he's doing a bunch of crazy shit. He started going around telling everybody that he knew everything. That he was a rapist, that he was a murderer, that he had killed over 30 boys. He even gave one of his friends like a bag of joints. He's just doing insane things. Gacy was then driven. He wasn't driven. He then drove around like erratically with a rosary up to his chin, like saying just prayers and things. And he was going to graveyards and visiting family members. So police arrested him for dispensing drugs, like the bag of joints I mentioned earlier. And because they were still in the process of acquiring the search warrant, the second one. Once back at the police station, Gacy very convincingly faked a heart attack, was taken to the hospital, and then he was quickly returned to jail. Because, he was faking it.
Right.
While in jail, the police were granted the second warrant to search Gacy's home, and upon arriving, they immediately went to the crawl space where, within minutes, they discovered multiple putrefied remains. This is it. Okay, this is it for Gacy. When the first policeman discovered the first piece of remains, which was an arm, he immediately yelled, "Charge him." That's right, Navi, charge him.
Charge him. Get the energy going.
So yeah, they found everything.
Yeah, so they found it all, and pretty much what we're looking at here, the funniest thing in the world to me is that the day that Gacy admitted all this, right? He's at the lawyer's office. I said American Psycho because if you've seen that movie, there's that scene where he's in his office just crying on the phone to his lawyer, explaining everything he did. It's kind of the image that I'm getting out of this.
I feel like that may have been directly taken from this description.
No, I think so too. So, like Jake said, he went around, he kind of said his goodbyes, did his things. He was in this weird kind of like haze, if you will, And what he did is when he went home, he unplugged the sump pump in the house, right? And I guess the hope was that it would flood the basement enough to where they couldn't find anything. But I guess he didn't take into account that the investigators weren't idiots.
Yeah, they could just plug it back in.
Yeah, so
they did.
So he took the plug and he hit it. So they just went and got a new one and plugged it in and waited a few hours for the basement to drain. And then they got right to digging, and within an hour they found remains of a human body.
Yeah.
They kept digging and digging and digging, and I mean, I'm to be honest with you. This went on for months, okay? Like, absolute just months.
Because they kept finding bodies.
Right.
Like, there were so many. Like, of the 33, only 5 of them went in the river. All the other ones were just in various places around the house.
Right, and I mean, it took weeks. For weeks, they were just digging and looking. They'd find nothing, then they'd find something. And most of the time, they weren't finding full bodies because, I mean, they'd been, buried for so long.
Yeah.
They were finding pieces of bodies, and then they were piecing that together. It was the world's worst jigsaw puzzle you could ever have.
Yeah.
They just didn't know what to do. So, obviously, right, he's screwed. On December 29th of that year, more bodies were unearthed, right? This is where they found 22, 23, 24, and 26. And you might be wondering, well, what about that? Well, they came back later and they found the 25th confirmed victim later. But, so they keep digging, and we're at a point now where, I mean, he is absolutely screwed. He is just done. They're finding heads and torsos that match certain pelvis regions and legs and arms. They found all these victims. They found, of the 33 confirmed, they only found 12 that weren't killed by strangulation. They're kind of like, well, how is that so? They learned that these people died of asphyxiation. Okay, so it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of the time, Gacy said that he would sit on their chests. Like, initially, that was like the first thing he would usually do.
Yeah, that was kind of his
that
MO.
may have had something to do with that.
But, so yeah, they noticed that, and obviously this creates a pattern. There's really no defense for that. It's not like, oh, somebody planted those there. It's like, these all fit a very specific pattern of events.
It's like, I think we can rule out people planting bodies in John Wayne Gacy's house because, you know what?
It ain't going to happen.
It's like Cosby and all like the people who accused him. It's like, oh, I bet some of them are. It's like, who cares? It's enough to where it's like, okay, yes, there's a problem here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like.
In April of 1979, the now vacant home of John Wayne Gacy was officially demolished. And I tried to look this up. Really, the only reason I found it specifically, they wanted to make sure that there was no tampering or tourism. Because the truth is, like, they'd kind of slowed down on the investigation, at least as far as excavating bodies. But there was no way to be sure that there weren't more. And they wanted to make sure that nobody would be breaking in or, looking. It's still a crime scene. Even if it's not active, it is something that they can go back to and continue to look at.
At least it was, because I think we mentioned this on like a really long ago past episode, but there's a house there now, and it's up for sale.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone bought it, because that was a long while ago, but
yeah,
it's just a house again.
The renovated Gacy house is now for sale. It is not the same house, but it's there, so it's like
same
it's
place.
Enough. So this is when they started finding bodies washed up in the Des Plaines River. Initially, they weren't connected to John Wayne Gacy, but then, obviously, after enough time, by early 1979, they realized that they followed the same method of death, strangulation, and the decomposition rate showed that they would have died around the time of the cruising era, as he said, a little bit after.
Not to mention Gacy was just singing like a goddamn songbird.
He
was just confessing. Like
he tried his guts.
Yeah, he tried a few different like methods of like, oh, maybe this will get me off. Like he was saying he was schizophrenic. He was saying like all these different things that just weren't true. He said that thing about was it Jack Hanley? But eventually the truth just comes out.
I do. I'm gonna kind of shorten this up a little bit, just because there's a lot of back and forth with the trial, and there's a lot of names and dates that they're pertinent if you're interested. There's plenty of information, but I'm gonna give us a little quick rundown here. Gacy was brought to trial on February 6th of 1980. He was charged with 33 murders. Okay, 33. That is an insane amount.
It's a good amount.
He was tried in Cook County, Illinois, before Judge Louis Garripo. The jury was selected from Rockford, Illinois, because, obviously Cook County was flooded with the Gacy story.
Yeah, and a lot of... it's probably hard to find a jury where someone didn't have some relation to one of the victims. Because it's just the sheer mass and the small area he got them all from.
So the court did grant him this before his trial. At the request of the defense counsel, Gacy spent more than 300 hours with different doctors and therapists. And big surprise, he tried to convince them all that he was suffering from a multitude of different, ailments, mental illnesses. And after the 300-hour mark, it was officially declared that John Wayne Gacy, while psychotic, was in no way insane or unable to stand trial. So he was granted, I guess what you would call sanity by the doctors.
Yeah.
And you got to think, this is very thorough. This is over 300 hours of research into him.
Yeah, it's not just 2 days like the first time they did a little analysis of him for the first charge he ever got charged for.
Now, I will say this. There were psychiatric experts that were called to the stand in the defense, and they did say that there were 3 doctors that said that they had found him to be a paranoid schizophrenic, but they never once said that this in no way makes it to where he shouldn't, stand trial or should plead insanity. They just were pretty open about, like, yeah, we think this dude might be nuts, but, he's still capable enough of making these rational decisions.
Yeah, he owned multiple businesses. He was a schmoozer if he ever saw one. He was around kids. He gained the trust of everyone. He was not like unable to handle himself.
Mm-hmm. And during this time with all this, he would refer to himself as Bad Jack.
Yep.
For those of you out there that are familiar with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that is like the exact MO he was going for. He was John Wayne Gacy on one hand, and he was Bad Jack on the other. And John Wayne Gacy was a fun-loving worker who just loved being around people. And Bad Jack was an extremely homophobic, evil monster who would beat, rape, and torture weak and stupid and gay individuals.
Yeah, Jack Hanley. But yeah, it's kind of the same with Pogo and Patches. You know, Patches was like the more serious clown, which is still weird, and then Pogo was the fun-loving one. He had all these instances of duality in his trial.
The reason that I wanted to talk about this so in depth is because, now don't get me wrong, I'm not entirely sure. I've never heard it come out of his mouth specifically, but I have read in interviews and in books from other people out there that worked on these cases and study it. Apparently, during the deliberation with his lawyers, Jeffrey Dahmer initially wanted to plead insanity, and they were telling him, they were using this case as reference. And they were like, you can try, but there's no guarantee. And upon learning this, Jeffrey Dahmer supposedly said to one of his lawyers that if John Wayne Gacy is deemed sane, I would be terrified to meet someone who is deemed insane.
Yeah, pretty much.
And when that guy's
Dahmer's so charming sometimes.
He could
when he's not drunk, he's so charming.
He really had it. And it's a great point. It's like when they can prove that this guy's not insane or not insane enough to where he needs the help more than he needs prison, you don't want to meet the guy that doesn't pass that test.
No, yeah, it's
you
very
really
true.
Don't, because what's that guy capable of?
It's a tough job dealing with those people.
So we go through a lot of testimony here. So on February 18th, Robert Stein testifies. We keep going back and forth. A guy named Jeffrey Rignall testified on behalf of the defense on February 21st, right? This is what he said. He wept repeatedly while describing the torture that John Wayne Gacy inflicted on him in March of 1978.
Oh, yeah, like you do. That makes sense.
You might be wondering, how is this in favor of the defense? Well, I'll get to that. So he's freaking out, and eventually the lawyers ask, should he be able to stand trial for his actions? And pretty much Jeffrey Rignall tells him that there's no way that John Wayne Gacy could be in prison for that because he was not acting as human when he did what he did to him. That it was complete animal instinct. It was complete just monstrosity. And there's no way that this guy is... So,
oh, yeah, just let him go then. Like, what?
Not that. That's what I find interesting, because they didn't try to twist it and say he didn't do it or he shouldn't be in jail.
Yeah, they're like, oh, he's just an animal.
They literally leaned into, you're getting screwed one way or the other, but let's try to get you in the insane asylum and not prison.
I guess, yeah.
And his examination was so bad that eventually... They during the cross-examination, my mistake. Yeah. The cross-examination was so intense for him that he actually vomited while he was on the stand, and he was asked to leave, and they didn't ask him to come back because they were like, clearly this is a lot for you, and we're not going to make you go through this. So he was there to testify in favor of Gacy, and when the prosecutors were asking him questions, it was so bad that he literally vomited and could no longer speak. Mm-hmm.
Good, yeah.
So throughout the month of February, we have plenty of people. We have Donald Voorhees. He testified against Gacy in late February, leap year that year, February 29th. How about that? It was on a leap year.
It's kind of fun.
But so we have plenty to testify, and then during the 5th week of the trial, okay, this is where it just gets really funny. John Wayne Gacy actually writes a formal personal letter to Judge Garippo, and he requests a mistrial. This is out of court. He doesn't bring it up in the courtroom, anything like that. He writes the guy a letter, and he's like, "Hey, listen here, Judge. Can I get a mistrial? I want this to stop." And do you want to know what he cited as his reasons for mistrial?
Yes.
He said that he did not give the okay to his lawyer to use the insanity plea.
Okay.
He said that his lawyers refused to let him take the witness stand, even though that is something he very much wanted to do.
I think his actions are speaking for his own insanity here.
Yeah.
Like that's,
he said that the defense did not call enough medical witnesses, and then he also said that the police were just flat out lying. That those were his reasons to claim a mistrial.
Well, that definitely sounds like a guilty criminal trying to get out of a trial. That's it's like police are lying, my lawyers are shit. Just do me a solid. Like, no, that's not how it works.
And the judge, in a there's really not a whole lot of specifics on what happened, but it seems as if before the jury was brought into the room again on one of the days of trial, both of the counsels, including John Wayne Gacy, were brought to the front to speak to the judge. Mm-hmm. And the judge kindly informed him that according to the law, he can do any of those things that he asked by simply asking the judge. And since he's never done that, he was refusing his right.
Jesus Christ.
So it was quite simple, okay? It was very, very simple. On March 11th, that was the day that the closing arguments by both the prosecution and the defense were given. So we're looking at about 6 to 7 weeks of a trial here. There's a lot to go through, okay?
That seems like a long time, but honestly, like in terms of the courts, that's like a pretty expedited trial, I'd say.
Yeah, and then pretty much what we're dealing with here is it actually backfired because by bringing people in to testify against and for Gacy, being former victims, the prosecution was able to turn that around and say that somehow actually these individuals are worse off, and they referred to them as living dead because of the actions that they've had to live through because of John Wayne Gacy. So if it ever looked like he was going to get a sliver of hope, it was completely crushed on March 11th.
No, yeah.
Absolutely just completely crushed.
Good.
So they closed all their statements off. The jury deliberated for about 4 to 5 hours, right? Hold on. I'm kind of fast forwarding here a little bit just so you know. They did resume on March 12th. A guy named William Kunkel. He continued to argue for the prosecution. So the closing statements continued for a little bit longer. But then by that time, on March 12th, the jury had deliberated for a few hours. And believe it or not, they found him guilty of all 33 accounts. And for each account, he was given the death penalty. So he was given 33 consecutive death penalties. That is
cool.
That is what the jury found him guilty of.
Could you imagine?
Mm-hmm. That was just completely unprecedented, especially because capital punishment by lethal injection had just come into effect in June of 1977.
Oh, it's like it's a match made in heaven.
And yeah, so his execution was scheduled for the morning of June 2nd of 1980. Talk about a fast turnaround. The trial starts in February, and this dude's supposed to be dead before like 4th of July.
No, that's good. Yeah, I mean you gotta get that guy out of there.
Yep. However, anybody that knows anything about these situations know that it didn't happen quite so smoothly. Upon being sentenced, Gacy was transferred to the Menard Correctional Center, the one where he was actually at for those 300 hours previous to the trial, and he remained incarcerated on death row for 14 years. Can you believe that?
Jesus
it's actually
Christ.
not crazy long.
That's why did it take so long?
Yeah, that's true.
You just don't know.
Well, why did it take so? Well, the thing is, especially on death row, anything that has to do with court, actually anything that has to do with government, if you disagree with the decision, it's within your legal rights to appeal. And as long as you keep paying your lawyers or they're willing to do it and they keep filing appeals, they technically can't follow through because you're still in the appeals process.
All right, I think we should have a new rule that is if it's over 15... I'll say 10. If it's over 10 counts of death that you're sentenced to, you should probably just die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are they allowed to appeal 33 death sentences?
Well, what had happened here, kind of the situation we're working with is he would get it up to the Supreme Court of Illinois. Illinois would say, no, we don't agree to this appeal. We hear you, and we're still going to make you go through with it. So he was scheduled again in 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987. But upon each of those, he would appeal, and it just kept going down the line.
Jesus Christ. And in the meantime, just in prison, he was learning to paint. He was having a great time.
Yeah, and between the years of 1979 to 1981, he contacted WLS-TV journalist Russ Ewing, and he did multiple interviews where he would discuss things that, he did, talk about his victims, get his spotlight, things like that. On February 15th of 1983, Henry Brisbane, another death row inmate, for those of you in the Chicagoland area, you might be familiar with the guy known as the I-57 killer. Well, that was him. And he actually stabbed Gacy in the arm with a sharpened wire. And Gacy was doing one of the voluntary work programs, and this guy came up to him and just stabbed him.
Good.
Just a little, go around.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so he's doing this. He's making paintings. He's actually making money. And then
he can even make money in prison. This guy's insane. He made a golf course in the first prison he was in. Now he's painting and making money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting fucking airtime on TV and radio.
Yeah,
from prison. That's insane.
One little fun factoid that people might not know: John Wayne Gacy is actually one of the reasons, if not the biggest reason, why inmates are no longer allowed to make money from things that they do in prison. You can make money if you do work, for the prison, if you do things through them. But back in this day, you could, you could write, you could paint, you could do anything. And if people wanted to buy it, that money was yours. I mean, just because you were in prison doesn't mean you couldn't partake in capitalism. And
then Gacy came along.
And John Wayne Gacy's paintings were selling for so much money that they actually had to make laws specifically stating that if you're in prison, you give up the right to make money that way. I mean, you can no longer do that.
Yeah, wasn't one of his paintings like an acid bath album cover?
Yep.
That's insane. And it's a picture of him as a clown.
It very much is. That album is absolutely fantastic.
It's a great album.
If you like heavy metal, if you like doom metal, weird stuff like that, check it out. It's probably one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, Acid Bath. I don't remember what the title of the album is, but it's the one with John Wayne Gacy.
It is When the Kite String Pops.
There we go.
It is a great album. I actually have the T-shirt, but I don't wear it often because
you're working.
I don't really want
stiff now.
I don't really want to go around with a picture of John Wayne Gacy on my chest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all grow up in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So after the mighty long appeals process, the U.S. Supreme Court, believe it or not, they denied Gacy's final appeal in October of 1993, and the Illinois Supreme Court said, "You know what? You're dead, kid. May 10th, 1994, you're going down." That was the date that was set.
Fucking about time, Jesus Christ.
On the morning of May 9th, 1994, Gacy was driven from the Menards Correctional Center to Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill, Illinois. Not bad, not too far from where we're at, actually. Not too far. On that afternoon, he was allowed a private picnic on the prison grounds with his family for his last meal. Okay. Jake, do you know what his last meal was? I think you might.
I think it was a bunch of KFC, right? And strawberries?
Mitch, what's your guess?
I know what it is.
Mitch knows what it is. Jake, you had half of it right. It was a bucket of KFC.
Yeah.
A dozen fried shrimp.
Okay.
French fries. Fresh strawberries.
Yes, okay. All right, so it was good.
And a Diet Coke.
I knew it was KFC. I didn't know.
Washed it all down with a Diet Coke.
You got to watch your figure for your big day, yeah.
That evening, he observed prayer with a Catholic priest before being brought to the Statesville execution chamber to receive his lethal injection. This is where it gets even funnier because it just piles on.
Because he's dead?
Before the execution began, while they were actually getting the chemicals ready, they solidified unexpectedly and they clogged the IV tube. So they didn't really know what to do. This is back when they allowed you to view the execution. The windows were open and you could watch it. And they were so embarrassed that they actually closed the blinds because they didn't want people to see their mighty bumble.
So embarrassing. We can't even kill this guy.
Yeah. So what they did is they took the clogged tube, threw it in the garbage, and got a new one brought in about 15 minutes. So they made the people wait there. Then they reopened the blinds like it's a very bad play.
And I just imagine a bunch of people start cheering.
Yeah. This is where the issue was, right? So they opened it up, gave him the shot, injected him. He's dead within 45 seconds.
Good.
The whole process, including the backed up tube, took about 18 minutes. So it was shorter than a fraction of what this episode was.
Yep.
So it's funny enough, because of this, they actually adopted a new method of lethal injection because they realized that the chemicals they were using were obviously not going to work if they kept clogging the tubes.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. In the hours leading up to this event, over 1,000 people gathered outside of the correctional center. And these were anti-death penalty protesters, and some were simply just people that wanted to be a part of
something because they're boring, bland people.
I guess, yeah. I don't really know.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go march and see if we can get this fucking multiple rapist serial killer off the death penalty.
There's
so many better things to do with your day.
Here's a funny thing. There's about a 50-50 split of people that were there. Half the people were wearing shirts and had signs that said "No tears for the clown," and the other half were anti-death penalty people that held a candlelight vigil after he was killed. So he got a little bit of everything. It was a wild turnout for that.
I wonder if there was like barbecues going on or something.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they actually made some fun out of it. If you're gonna go out there and do it, at least make it good.
Gacy's death was confirmed officially at 12:58 a.m. on May 10th of 1994. Immediately upon death, his brain was removed. It is in the possession of one Helen Morrison, a witness for the defense that actually testified at the trial of Gacy. She interviewed Gacy a lot and a lot of other serial killers, and the reason she has the brain is because she is working on studies that link common personality traits of violent psychopaths and sociopaths.
Good.
To this day, she still has the brain, and officially on May 11th of 1994, John Wayne Gacy's body was cremated, and his ashes are unknown what happened to him. Nobody knows if they were scattered or if they're kept somewhere.
Oh, jeez, that's kind of scary.
And that, my friends, is the story of one John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah,
Jr.
he's dead. He's dead, and it's good, but he did kill a lot of people on the way, so that's bad.
He bumbled his way.
But we're also done.
He bumbled his way through everything, even the death penalty.
Yeah.
He somehow almost got away with that. They were trying to inject him, and he almost got away.
Yeah. Just by sheer luck, just like with everything else.
Yeah, pretty much. So his reign of terror ended in the late 1970s, and for about 15 years, he hung out he was in between prison and, a mental institution. He was constantly behind bars, though. Obviously, this is where a lot of the paintings, a lot of the interviews, believe it or not, the original works of John Wayne Gacy are still available to this day. They go online at auction for absurd amounts of money. The last I heard, I want to say it was like 2014, I heard somebody bought one of the original paintings of Gacy. I think it was the Sex Skull, the one that's it's just a painting of a bunch of people having sex.
Is that the picture we posted on Instagram earlier? Yeah.
And that one, it went for over $800,000.
What? I don't know if I'd want that in my house if you gave it to me for free. What the hell?
If you are interested,
who's in charge of that?
I stumbled upon a website that I'm very shocked even exists. I don't know the name of it because I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really care to take the name of it. It's not my hobby, if you will.
Did this freak you out to the point where you're like, no?
A little bit.
I'm leaving the computer room.
I'm not gonna lie. I did a little bit. It is a website that only sells serial killer memorabilia. Now, the majority of their things are duplicates and copies. However, they do have original things. They have a Christmas card that Jeffrey Dahmer had sent to his friend, and that is sealed in laminate, and it is on sale for $385,000.
That's insane.
There's actually a pair of handcuffs that was confiscated from John Wayne Gacy's home on sale, but the price is not listed. You have to contact the seller. And just so you know, all these things that are authentic do come with a certificate of authenticity. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very interested in true crime. Not enough to have any of those things in my house.
Probably not.
It's just not my bag.
Maybe we just throw that stuff out.
Yeah. But with all of that being said, that is effectively our episode for the week.
Yeah, that's our series.
Well, hold on. We got Mitch holding up two fingers over here.
What does Mitch have to say?
He's trying to speak. What's happening here?
I just wanted to add in a little something. So the woman who actually got the brain, I was watching a thing, and I'm pretty sure they actually did studies on that brain. And don't quote me on this, but I think they found a part of your brain that has some the chemicals or whatever for empathy for other people wasn't there in the brain.
Sounds about right.
From what I remember.
No, it sounds about right.
I could very much believe that. That if anybody, Mitch boiled down about 3.5 to 4 hours of our material into a single sentence right there.
No
That's
apathy. You gotta have apathy.
That is literally
sympathy, not apathy.
Well, you should have
even mixture too. Of both of them. Why not?
If you're gonna have sympathy, you should probably have some empathy.
Be
too.
a person, not like John Wayne.
Don't let them outweigh each other.
Gacy, that is.
But we will be back next week. We'll be back on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, with a new Patreon episode.
Oh, yeah.
And next Friday, we will be back. Just a little forewarning. I'm not going to tell you what the episode is. We will be taking not a break, but we're going to be doing one of our more lighthearted episodes to kind of rinse all this
wash
gunk
our
off
mouths
here.
out, It's, yeah.
This is a lot of just garbage water. And
this has been almost a month of just talking about young men getting raped and murdered.
Yeah, we literally...
So we're going to do something that's a bit of a palate cleanser.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. Don't worry, it'll always be dark. That's always something we have to offer, but it's not going to be...
Fear not, yeah.
You're not going to want to take a shower after. I mean, unless you're doing something physical, I don't know.
You probably should, though.
But with all that being said, we are starting a cult, and we are done with the episode
That's
this
true,
week.
yeah. You can follow us on all the shit we got. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we're on YouTube. There's Patreon down below. We did with all the new episodes. That's for the episode on Thursday Grant was talking about. It's going to be great. But yeah, you can follow us on all that stuff. Tell everyone about it. That's Grant. I'm Jake, and Mitch is here.
Bananas.